I don't think there could have been a better way to kick off DoscoTalks, as we call it, for 2025. I mean, this is something as the DSOBS we have been trying to do for the last couple of years, and the idea is obviously to have prominent Doscos like you speak to us, and then we can put it out to the larger fraternity in terms of your own experiences, as a Dosco, as an entrepreneur, and obviously, a message that you want to convey to the larger fraternity. I also want to thank Uday, for agreeing to do this with us this evening. Uday is a very accomplished anchor on NewsX, pretty much everywhere, every day. So on behalf of the DSOBS, I'd like to welcome both of you to please join us and kickstart this fireside conversation as we've envisaged. Please, Mr. Analjit Singh.
Thank you. Hello and welcome, and good evening to all of you joining us today for this first physical edition of DoscoTalks. I think it's something that, of course, we've seen happen virtually, but about time that it's happening physically. And welcome to all of you who've joined us physically for it, and hello to all of you watching virtually. We are, of course, very, very privileged and honored to have a very, very accomplished Dosco in our midst, Analjit Singh, who's, of course, been chairman of the board of governors of the Doon School as well. Very successful tenure. And I remember that clearly because it was when I was passing out of school in 2007. But since it is DoscoTalks, it is a title of this event. So let me start out. There's a lot that we have to, of course, speak to Mr. Singh about because he's accomplished a lot post-school as well. But let's just start out, sir, by asking you about what it means to be a Dosco.
I have to pause to think for a second. Is this all right? Is it audible? Yeah. Let me start with a bit of a story, because when we met yesterday, you said, will you share some stories? And I said, I only have stories to share, So the truth of the matter is that I joined school just under the age of 12. And I don't know what the rules are now, but 11 was a cutoff point in our time. And I told my parents that I went to St. Columbus here in Delhi, and I said, I don't want to leave home. I didn't say I didn't want to go to the Doon School. I didn't want to leave home, and that's a part of the answer to your question. So they said, all right, your call. So my admission was cancelled in the Doon School. And that summer, like every other summer for 16 years, and I'm looking a little bit more at Vidit because he knows exactly what I'm talking about, we used to spend 40 days every summer in Gulmarg. It was the same hotel, the same rooms, the same schedule, which was dominated by golf and Doscos from Delhi, Doscos from Calcutta, Doscos from all over the place. And on this, obviously I'd grown up another year from the previous year, but all I heard in that entire 40 days was Dosco, Doon School, Dosco, Doon School, slang, lingo, anecdotal references to school, to masters, to old boys. And said, I'm sick and tired of this. I've got to be a part of this. There's no way. So I came back and I threw a tantrum and I said, I'm not going to go to school unless I go to the Doon School. They said, forget it, not happening, because the cutoff date of 11, fortunately, the family at large had built up some brownie points over the previous 25, 30 years. Yeah, I'm getting a feeling I'm not being heard. So if you can raise the volume a tad, it'll resonate better in my head. So, got a long story short, with the handiwork of some members of family, S.C. Roy and Gurdial Singh, I got admitted. When I went to school, and my parents left me there, like you were saying, I threw another tantrum and saying, if you don't come and take me back, I'm going to commit suicide. Okay. So they said, not getting this. You weren't going, then you wanted to go, and now you want to leave school. And my buddy or chaperone, is that right, was was Sunil Rowley. Okay. So he said, what the hell are you talking about? You got a cousin in Jaipur House. Your old friend Karan Thapar is in your same room. What's the problem? Cut the long story short, I think I missed creature comforts. And we were thoroughly spoiled in the upbringing given by my parents in a fantastic home, which, by the way, I had to leave on January 13th of this year after being in that house for 71 years because I've reached a settlement with the mother of my children. My new home is welcome. It's a very large casa in Delhi called the Imperial Hotel. So they said, but this is absolutely crazy. You know, you wanted to come and so on and so forth. And then my father came. I'm still on your question. Yeah. My father came that weekend. He said, listen, do me a favor, 1 more week. And if it doesn't work out, we'll take you back. Not going to have an unhappy kid in school. That was a Sunday. Parents used to leave to return on a Sunday. On Wednesday, I went to Guru, to Gurdiyal Singh. I said, sir, I need a chit for a telegram. Oh, no, you're not getting any chit, buddy. So I said, no, sir, I want to send a different kind of a telegram. He called Sunil Rawley. He said, go with him to the office, the chit for telegram. Make sure call me and tell me, or come and tell me. There was no way to call from the school building to Jaipur House, what he's writing, and then you go ahead. And I just said, see you in December. That was the telegram. Something changed. And now the specific answer to your specific question. The school strips you and brings you down to reality and to Mother Earth. And in the subsequent years, as you go through that journey, you realize that what you need to really be happy in your surroundings is so little. And your entire strength in trying to find that so little or a lot has to come from within you and not from outside you. So I think that's the first thing that the Doon School taught me, to say, less is more. You can be happy in that situation. And very quickly, I built a fraternity of friends, and I started to engage in school. Gurdiyal Singh, in 2 or 3 years later, wrote in my report to my parents that this boy is interested in everything about the Doon School, extracurricular activities. I was, God knows, this in charge, that in charge. The only thing he's not interested in is studies. That also gave me a wake-up call. But it really, for me, the Doon School taught me fraternity. It taught me, it grounded me. It stripped me to not believe the voices that I had spoken to myself at that young age of 12, 13, 14, 15, and to always invoke a higher voice, a higher sense of reasoning and purpose, which then propelled me to get a very, very happy school life, and allow me to say, with your permission, a very successful school life. So I did do well in school. I got every blazer, all of that stuff. And so, yeah, I think that's what the school taught me. Fraternity, simplicity, team play, to be focused, to be demanding it from yourself in how you accelerate in any pursuit that you want to do. Yeah. So that's sort of my answer off the cuff. Yeah.
Okay. Just expanding that now a bit, and I think you summed it up, of course, very, very well. But how have those teachings and those learnings, as you said, and we'd like maybe a couple more stories from you as you answer this question as well. How have those learnings, in those early days of yours, held you good in your professional career and, your personal life moving forward?
So adaptability at work, adaptability in my personal life, being a glutton for change. Mm-hmm. So somebody wrote in that mail, the only constant is change. Is all a bullshit. So change then. Why don't you change? I change at the drop of a hat. Mm-hmm. I've made changes in my personal life. I've made changes in my business life. I've Sahil sitting here. He knows me better than anybody else. I'm always solving for life. I've learned to solve for life. So that whole formative years, including the 7-8 years that I spent in the States. Mm-hmm. So that was when I went to college, I lived on my own. That was also quite a shock, to go and live on your own when you first went to the States. But I have to say, adaptability, flexibility, embrace change, solve for life, not for the transaction, not for the day, not for the moment, but solve for life. What is something that you're going to do benefit or hurt you from a life perspective, not only from that deal perspective or that transaction perspective or that yes or no perspective. So I would say that change, adaptability.
What kind of a student was Analjit Singh? Was he someone who was happiest on the games field? Was he someone who was happiest going on the midterm trek, in the academic classroom, in the house? How were you in school?
Busy. Didn't have 5 minutes. And all of the things you're talking about. I just told you about Guru writing to my parents saying, this guy's, you name it. I headed almost every committee. I was telling all of you, whether it was mess committee, tuck shop committee, or it was this committee or extracurricular or social service or whatever it was, on the field. I got a games blazer. I played squash for school. I swam for school. I ended up with a low first division. I got into Delhi University, which transited and left and went to Boston after that. So everywhere. I was everywhere at the school. I was a busybody at school, and I loved that. Midterm, private party midterms were absolutely fantastic. We did all the things we should. We did all the things you shouldn't. We faked it. We did all kinds of stuff. So I just loved every moment. I never had a problem getting out of bed. I was school PT leader in A form. Everywhere. Answer was everywhere.
You lived the full Dosco life. You lived the full Dosco life.
Full on Dosco. Yes. Not realizing that many years later, I'd live another chapter of a Dosco life, before of whatever years on the board, and get 5 or 6 years as chair. So full on Dosco life. Immersed Dosco. I think that's the title of the answer to your question. Yeah.
Let's now talk about, your professional career as well, because you've been a successful business and in fact, one of India's best. Just tell us about how you navigated your professional life. So you told us, of course, about Delhi University, Boston. Let's just talk about how your professional career started and then how it moved forward.
Okay. So as I said, I went to school in America for about 5.5 or 6 because when it was the system that half year, 1 year, only because I worked in the university after that. And then I worked there for 2 years, and then I came back after a stay of 7.5 years. And when I came back, it was the month of June, and my father asked me, they just started a company that you all know the name of, I prefer not to take, said, we just started a joint venture in Lagos, Nigeria. So would you go and look after that? So I said, firstly, I don't know how to look after companies. And secondly, I've just come back home after 8 years, just been married 1.5 years ago. So I don't want to go anywhere but stay here. What are you going to do? I said, I have no cooking clue. And this went on for 30, 60 days. And then my eldest brother, who sadly no more, and I say that with respect and affection, and my brother sort of approached me and said, well, look, this pharma company is out there to do a particular project. We haven't been able to get it off the ground. Would you do it? So my inner voice told me, say yes. What I was saying yes to, I don't know. And it was to produce a particular drug intermediate called 6-aminopenicillinic acid. And at that time, I couldn't pronounce it or write it or use the spelling of it. But I got going back to what, what Doon School told you. You get something, a door's open, go through it. You'll soon find out whether it's the right door or the wrong door. If it's the wrong door, you have the privilege of coming back, but at least go through the door.
Yeah.
And that was baptism by fire, because it was this particular product, an import substitution item. Raw materials were banned for import. It required foreign technology. I went around the world, got another long story short, and about 4 years after that, US FDA approved, I started that facility. And I was shocked with myself. I said, wow, this thing is happening. I couldn't believe it. And we hit the ground running. So we were profitable in year 1. And I said, so success breeds success, but failure should also not leave you without a challenge. And so off I went to developing that business, which we did. It was India's first US FDA approved company. And that was the year, if you remember, when Mr. Manmohan Singh was the PM and the country had some 5 days of reserves and all of that stuff. I was laughing because 80% of my product was exported in hard currency, not rubles, but dollars, yen, and the like. So we were all right. So that gave more financial strength to the company. And to cut the long story short, Uday, my motivation, which is I think the question you're asking me, not about specific items, my motivation was financial independence for myself. And my parents brought us up in a very austere way. So we learned very quickly the value of money. I learned very quickly, I should delete we. And so I said, I've got to be in those businesses which make me financially secure. India was just opening up. So wherever there was an opportunity to navigate license Raj and import substitution, I picked those. So it was a very disparate, diversified range of businesses. One didn't have anything to do with the other, but the common theme was import substitution, common theme was license Raj, and the common thing was foreign joint ventures and collaborations and so on. So that's what the focus, always been very focused. So I would always looked at quality, US FDA approved, efficiency by way of how much penicillin you needed to convert to 1 kilo of this product, because every fraction of a gram gave you hundreds of rupees or more contribution. So we did the same thing with electronics. That was the same thing with telecom. As telecom got privatized, it was also import substitution of a different kind, or paging, or satellite communication, or health scribe, medical transcription. Now, when we got in medical transcription business, I simply focused on two things. How do I find the maximum transcribers in the United States? That was our exclusive market. And what is the minimum time to turn around the transcription and send it back to a clinic that the doctor wanted? And if we successful on those, business would come, In the telecom area, also be very focused. My competition in Bombay was BPL. BPL was a giant. We were not even a little kid off the block. Those days, their advertising marketing budget was 100 crores a year. My budget was 6 crores. So my colleagues and I sat around the table and said, how are we going to make this thing happen? We are Max Hutchison dealing with a giant like BPL. And we came up and I said, guys, Bombay is a large city. If you get the radio frequency right in all of Bombay, your capex is going to go through the roof. We don't have that much money. And Hutchison was, despite being Hutchison Whampoa, it was very tight on committing dollars to this joint venture. So I said, where can we score a point? And where can we have become the talk of the town? And the answer was 100%, no drop calls and seamless connectivity from Nariman Point to Santa Cruz Airport, because everybody went to Santa Cruz Airport to take a flight. So we did that. We had no drop calls. We had the most efficient service right through that artery. And we plastered Bombay with a hoarding called the best indoor coverage. And a lot of people said, this is an antithesis. What are you talking about? People use a mobile phone at 16 rupees a minute for outside coverage, not indoor coverage. So we said, no, the trick here is that if you're in a room like this and one person's phone rings, because mobile telephony was just getting started then, and you would say, Tika, your phone rings inside here? It never rang outside, but it rings in here. It must be a good service. 99% market share. 99% market share by word of mouth. And if it works inside, it jolly well work outside, because the signal comes from outside in, not inside out.
What a life. Truly, of course, as I said earlier, this is why we say he's, one of India's best in business. But, just very quickly before we move on now to another segment in this chat with you, what advice or what sort of, would be your word to today's generation who are watching you, hearing you of Doscos, who want to enter this space, who are already in this space, looking back at how you navigated your success? Is it about timing? Is it about trusting your instinct? Is it about the right team? What explains, these successes that you've had across these sectors for today's generation who want to become entrepreneurs more and more? Our Prime Minister also has said, become job creators and not just job seekers.
So it's a big question, huh? It's a big question. I think my views are they're generation agnostic. It doesn't matter. It applies to all of us. And I'm just sharing experience. I don't have the time to give you a structured answer, but I can only tell you what has worked for me. So firstly, I'm a believer. Okay. Very important part of every part of my life is enshrined with the faith of being a believer. Not talking about religion. Secondly, the truth of the matter is that before you came onto this universe, you were not in this universe. So something brought you to this universe. So there was a design. The earlier you respect that and you think of your maker, creator, by whatever name you want to call it, I think that puts you in good state. Mm-hmm. So take your I out, me out, and leave it to the maker. Secondly, I say this to Sahil every second day on some context or the other. What I said earlier, solve for life. Life means what? Meaning, what gives you, what develops your inner world? What gives you strength? What gives you peace? What gives you confidence? What do you like? Like a lot of kids still talk to me, despite my experience of going to the States and so on, about going to university in America. And I said, you're asking me all the wrong questions. I said, what kind of a climate do you like to live in? What kind of an environment do you like to live in? You are 20, 21 years old. You're not a 2-year-old kid. Do you not have some preferences in your life? Where you want to be, where you want to live, and so on and so forth. So all the way from a stature of university to the course curriculum, to the prospect of your getting employment after that, etc. Also ask about yourself now. So my experience that I'm sharing is solve for life, not for the day, not for the transaction. When you give up something, you get something. That cannot always be measured in rupees and paisa. I think that's a big mistake people take. If there's too much focus on the commercial, financial aspects of decision making and not on that you're trying to talk to your own inner world of what works for you and what you like. What gets you out of bed on a Monday morning? What inspires you? What is your aspiration? What do you want to build? I honestly believe that tentative thinking leads to tentative outcomes and clear thinking leads to clear outcomes. And I honestly believe that if you visualize that you want to do something and you start to foresee it and visualize the journey that it takes to achieve that, even if it appears out of your reach, and you manifest that visualization to say, I'm going to do this to get there, nature comes and helps you to get there. But if you have kind of indefinite intentions and you waver and you are not sure and confident about yourself, you will end up exactly in the hotspot that you are in. So seek what you want. Think of what you want. What will make you, the only word I don't want to use is make me happy. What the hell is happy? Happy means nothing. Where do you find happiness? And if it's only financial, then go after seek at all costs, go after that. But it's going to be very short-lived because life is much more about than being financial. And so make bold moves, take bold decisions. They could be about your business life. They could be about your personal life. They could be about change. It could be about lots of things. I've experienced that. And I've experienced it and taken the time to look back and ask myself, did I do it right? Did I do the right thing? Did I have an option? Have I achieved what I wanted to do? And that's the process you need to follow. So it's not a one-word answer, but as I tried to say very succinctly, solve for life. Look inside you, not outside. Yeah. Figure out, write. You must write. Mm-hmm. It's an exercise I suggest to a lot of people. And why don't you all do it? Take a piece of paper tonight, write April, 6, 2025. Write down on the left side what you thought you saw happening, wanted to happen, tried to make happen 10 years ago. and write down where you are today. Chances are I don't think you'll even have a 50% correlation between what you thought 10 years ago and what the reality is today. That is only telling you that just by some, that tells you that change is going to happen. Embrace it. Make it happen. No tentativeness in your thinking. And go with the flow and be open to being adaptable and figure out what works for you. And don't worry about what somebody else thinks about what works for you. It's your life. So, favorite story, science every day from me. So there's a lot of truth, and when you're in a plane, so they went to foreign cabin pressure, put on the mask, as I showed this little kid, and after that, you have a little kid. Then many years ago, I used to say, how heartless it is, yaar, bacha baitha hai. Wo apne aap ko डाल रहा है mask. But it's true. If you don't make it, the kid ain't going to make it. So look after yourself. And it's not selfishness. Selfishness is when I do something for myself and I take it out of Haripal's haq. I'm not taking anything from Haripal. But if I look after myself, I'm not being selfish with Haripal. So in that sense, looking at yourself first is okay. Is okay.